Now we know.
Here we go. We are ready. So lovely to see you again and to talk about this passionate project. And I'm so grateful that you're part of it. So tell us about yourself. Who is Anne-Cécile, and what's your
Okay.
story?
So I'm Anne-Cécile. I'm both French and Norwegian. I'm actually working in the banking industry in a multinational company, and I'm working in their specialized finance services. My last two roles were actually country managing director of Norway and deputy country managing director in Portugal.
And how did you like you have such an international experience. I'm always so impressed by all the different roles that you've how did that career journey happen to you? Like how were you motivated? What drove you around the world?
Actually, it's quite funny because I always talk about that. Yesterday, I had also a talk with our talent program participants, and they wanted to know about my career path. And every single person was 100% certain that I was determined, that I knew what I wanted to do, that I was behind the steering wheel, that I set myself a goal, and that I did everything I could to achieve it in terms of career, which is not true at all. Actually, I would say, a little bit lost. When I was fresh out of school, I had done two masters. I even took a break here during which I worked because I knew that it was not clear to me what I wanted to do next. But still, after graduation, I was still very insecure about where my place was, where I could contribute the most, where I would fulfill myself and develop myself. So I took it on me to test and to do trial and errors. Of course, I wanted to have a steady income, so I would never leave a company before I found another job if I didn't like it. So I did that, and I think I switched for 2 years from like startup companies to local large corporates to multinational. I've worked in sales, I've worked in communications and events, I've worked in marketing, I've worked in audit. So I've tested a lot of things until I found what I call my calling. So that was my discovery phase in my career for sure, trying to find something that was the right fit. And I found it when I became a bank inspector because I had the variety that I was looking for. I had the autonomy that I wanted. I had the learning curve that was extremely steep. And I was also surrounded by very supportive people. So I owe them a lot as well. And I think that was also kind of an awakening for me that my role also have to transmit throughout my career and to take care of others and support the way I've been supported.
You do a lot of initiatives for women. You and I have chatted about that. Can you tell us a little more what that entails? Because it's so related to what this project is about.
Of course. So there's a lot of things that happen outside of work. Of course, it's like more those sorority events or these like groups where we get to share experience, share networks, the classic ones. I think we've had a lot of talks internally in the companies I worked in the countries I worked in, on how we can best support diversity. Of course, like gender diversity is one of them, not only, but so we've done a lot of things around that. And there are several ways of handling it. There can be a very upfront way with heavy communication, but those are words. And I think what's the most important is to actually not necessarily, and in my view, that's how I proceed, is like, and that's for me is quite new here to be open about that, because I usually try to work in the background more than just state, oh, we're doing things for women. No, it's like we are doing things for diversity in general, and we do it more in the background in trying to work on unconscious biases with training, for example, when we hire. That's very important to bring awareness, like all the time in different forums within a company. We also did a podcast around like diversity in general, where there were very hard questions being asked to the management team and also people in key functions within the company. We also, of course, have the succession planning, and that's also part of the biases that sometimes we see. When we're doing a succession planning, there is always a perception of, is the person ready, or is the person not completely ready? And sometimes it's also based on impressions more than reality. But then if there is really a gap, we need to secure then that we train a person and we support them to access to the next position. So, and also securing at all stages that we have a reflection of on equality of opportunities as a whole. It's not about perfect equality, but is about equality of opportunities always. So there are a lot of small things we do on a daily basis, and then set pieces events where we secure that there is an alignment, there is an understanding, and there is also a common will and a recognition that diversity is actually for the benefit of everybody in the organization, and also to the benefit of the organization itself. So a lot of like studies show that diversity will improve decision making, will improve financial results, will improve innovation. So I mean, those are facts. They are like proof checked 100 times.
Yeah. You said hot questions. Is there anything that comes to mind from the podcast when people would ask management? What is...
Yeah. So I think a lot of people wonder, like, if we reflect on our career, were there moments where we had biases? So those were questions, or it's like simple questions like, if you were to have a second life, would you choose to be a man or a woman? And this question being asked to a man or a woman would be giving a very different outcome. In my experience, I've only ever heard a man saying that he would want to be a woman in a second life, but it's much more balanced when you're a woman. The answer is much more balanced. So those kind of questions, you know, they're fun, they're entertaining, but they're also bringing some reflection, right?
Mm-hmm. You know, something I was talking with somebody else, one of our partners, PwC in Lisbon, and we were chatting about how different cultures obviously condition women differently, right? Really depends where you've grown up, what's your family circle, and so on. And a lot of women don't even, they're timid. They may have the skills, they may have, because research also shows that when men get promoted based on experience, based on potential, and women based on experience, which sets us back so much more, because by the time you get all the degrees, by the time you get all that experience, you've lost the opportunity, but you have the skills, you have, it's within you already. How do you feel we can empower women to feel that they can have that business, that they can go into a company and grow their career within the corporate world, let's say?
Well, I think one thing we can do is, of course, bring awareness. Like it goes both ways. I think it's also the decision makers who they hire. Do they hire on potential, like you said? Do they hire based on experience? And there's also like women themselves feeling that they need to check all the boxes before they can apply to something. So it really is a work on both ends. I think, generally speaking, we also need to be very careful, because we always talk about the glass ceiling. We always like reinforce that narrative, and then at the end of the day, I'm sure that the next generations, they incorporate that and they think, oh, there is a glass ceiling, oh, this is a reality, oh, it's about, you know, my experiences. So, you know, at some point I think we need to let it go. You know, I can see already a very large change in the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the country where I'm working at the moment, I can see a very big difference. And we were also talking about the difference between countries, and that's very obvious. Working in Portugal and working in Norway are two very different realities, and it's also about, indeed, the environment, the context, the education, even the content at school. You know, like in Norway, from a very in primary school, both like boys and girls will learn to sew, to cook, to all those things. So it's the most natural thing. So obviously, this will little by little create an impact. And generally speaking, same again in Scandinavia, like there is the same amount of support and interest from the general population for female sport or male sport. You see it equally on television. So you are very right. There is a cultural impact, of course. But I also feel that things are really, again, changing. I see it when I interview people like who are in their 20s today, entering the job market with their expectation, with also their level of confidence. And there are more and more role models. I remember entering the banking world when I was very young and seeing that there was almost no female representation in my company at the exco level. And those things have changed. Of course, then, if I were starting my career now in the banking world, I wouldn't be thinking about the glass ceiling, because I would see, hey, you know what? I can be deputy CEO global. You know, if I just go in that direction, it's a possibility. It's a genuine possibility.
If you didn't have to, I love that question actually. If you didn't have to make a living with your job, what would you be? Meaning, if you didn't need money, if we didn't need money, what
Uh,
would you choose to be?
yeah, actually, it's I've thought about this many, many times. And there are some foundations. I mean, I won't name names, but they are very famous organizations. In the US, for example, where I could see myself working, I wouldn't even need a salary because I think, with the funding, I could actually work towards very good causes, and I would have this, you know, this everyday like eagerness and happiness to get up and trying to make a positive impact. So yes, those could be the type of organizations where I could lean towards for sure.
Hmm. And what is your notion of success? Because you've achieved quite a lot in your professional career, in your personal life, but what is truly success for you?
I think things have changed a lot, of course. I think when I was very young, my definition of success was very like self-motivated, it was about my needs. So I wanted my needs to be fulfilled. And I was thinking, if I have a job that gives me freedom, autonomy, impact, learning, then I will feel successful. And then after, of course, I was just like, oh, success has to be towards the company. So I need to make the financial results. I need to make the sustainability results. I need to make the engagement score results for both clients and employees. So it was very much like KPI based. I think now my definition of success is I've been very lucky throughout my career to learn a lot with a lot of people. I had different functions like chief of staff to the global CEO of my business line. I'm now, managing director position in Norway. Just like feeling that now what I can do is to give back, and it's extremely rewarding. So at the end of the day, it's still for you because you see that by developing people, by sharing, by mentoring, by coaching, you also offer a path of development for others. And it's very demanding in terms of time and even in terms of focus and energy, but it's extremely rewarding. And for me, success is also seeing the positive evolution of someone, whether it's finding their calling or actually reaching a position where they're learning a ton and feeling fulfilled. That's probably my best definition of success.
I love that. Thank you so much, Anne-Cécile. This was beautiful. Let me just stop.